Dr. Sarah Martinez stared at her monitor in the Global Space Observatory's main control room, her coffee growing cold beside her keyboard. Something was wrong with the data feed from Jupiter. At first, she thought it was a sensor malfunction. Stars don't simply disappear. But as she cross-referenced readings from observatories across Earth, her hands began to tremble. "Director Chen, you need to see this," she called out, her voice steady, despite the gravity of what she was seeing. The observatory's director hurried over, his usual composed demeanor cracking as he studied the readings. The stars behind Jupiter weren't just vanishing. Something massive was moving into position, something big enough to eclipse a significant portion of the gas giant from Earth's perspective. Initial calculations suggested objects at least several hundred kilometers in diameter. Within hours, every major observatory on and off Earth had confirmed the readings. 3 crystalline structures, each larger than Earth's moon, had entered the solar system with no prior detection. Their surfaces refracted sunlight in ways that defied known physics, creating cascading rainbows that rippled across their faceted surfaces. As dawn broke over each major city, humanity collectively held its breath. The vessels were clearly visible to the naked eye, their presence impossible to hide or deny. Social media exploded with theories and speculation, but the vessels themselves remained silent, offering no clue to their purpose or origin. Emergency meetings convened in every major capital. Military forces worldwide went on high alert, though everyone understood the futility of such preparations. Any civilization capable of building such massive structures and moving them undetected through space would view Earth's most advanced weapons as primitive curiosities. In the observatory's break room, Sarah found herself studying amateur telescope photos flooding the internet. "Look at the precision," she murmured to her colleague, Dr. James Wong. "Every facet, every angle. It's mathematically perfect." James nodded, enlarging one of the clearer images. "Too perfect," he replied, his cybernetics background lending weight to his observation. Natural evolution tends to favor adaptability over perfection. These structures, they're like algorithms made physical. The first 48 hours of the arrival set new patterns for human civilization. Stock markets suspended trading as economic systems worldwide adjusted to the new reality. Religious leaders offered varying interpretations of the event, while scientists worked frantically to gather any data they could about the visitors. The vessels maintained their position, their perfect crystalline surfaces occasionally shifting in mesmerizing patterns that seemed to follow some incomprehensible mathematical sequence. Each movement was precise, deliberate, and utterly alien in its perfection. On the third day, Sarah noticed something that others had missed. The vessel's movements, while perfect in execution, followed a rigid pattern. She began logging each shift, each rotation, feeding the data into the observatory's quantum analysis systems. "It's like they're scanning us," she explained to Director Chen, pointing to her findings. "But not just our physical infrastructure. These patterns suggest they're analyzing our information networks, our digital communications, everything that makes up modern human civilization." "And what have they learned?" Chen asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sarah's expression was thoughtful as she studied the latest data. "That's what worries me, sir. They're scanning everything in perfectly ordered sequences. No randomization, no adaptation to new data. It's like they don't know how to deal with unexpected variables." As if in response to her observation, the crystalline vessels suddenly ceased all movement. Their surfaces became perfectly still, reflecting the sun's light in unwavering patterns across Earth's daytime hemisphere. The silence that followed was more terrifying than any overt threat could have been. Humanity held its collective breath, waiting for first contact. But in observatories and research centers worldwide, a handful of scientists like Sarah had already glimpsed a fundamental truth about their visitors. In their pursuit of perfection, they might have sacrificed something uniquely valuable: the ability to adapt to the unexpected. Marcus Wong rubbed his tired eyes, the lines of code on his monitor beginning to blur together. As a junior analyst at the Quantum Communications Center, He'd been tasked with monitoring background radiation patterns for any signs of alien communication. Most of his colleagues had already gone home, leaving him alone in the dim glow of his workstation. Something in the data caught his attention. He sat up straighter, fingers flying across his keyboard as he isolated a particular sequence. The pattern was too orderly, too structured to be natural background radiation. While others had been looking for obvious signals, these were whispers in the digital noise. Running pattern analysis, he muttered to himself, initiating a quantum algorithm he'd developed during his graduate studies. The program was unconventional, designed to find order in chaos rather than following traditional signal detection methods. His supervisors had called it inefficient, but Marcus had always believed that sometimes the longest path revealed the most interesting discoveries. The results made him catch his breath. Hidden in what appeared to be random background radiation was a massive amount of data. The aliens had been downloading information from Earth's networks for months before their arrival. But it wasn't just the volume of data that surprised him. It was the way they'd collected it. "Dr. Chen," he called, his voice echoing in the empty office. "Please tell me you're still here." The head of quantum computing emerged from her office, coffee cup in hand. "What have you found, Marcus?" He gestured to his screen. "Look at their data collection pattern. It's perfect, too perfect. They're processing our networks like a computer would scan a hard drive, moving systematically through every piece of data without any optimization or prioritization." Dr. Chen leaned closer, her eyes widening as she processed the implications. They're not learning from what they find. They're just collecting, like they don't know how to filter relevant information from noise. Marcus nodded excitedly. "Exactly. And look at this." He pulled up another window showing a comparison of data patterns. When they encounter our quantum networks, their collection pattern shows microscopic delays. It's like they can't handle the uncertainty principle in our quantum communications. Over the next few hours, more analysts were called in. The crystalline ships remained motionless above Earth, but now humanity had a glimpse into their methods. The aliens' technology was incredibly advanced, but it operated on principles of absolute precision and predictability. Their code is like a symphony where every note is mathematically perfect. Marcus explained to the emergency meeting of the World Science Council, connected via quantum encrypted channels. But there's no improvisation, no adaptation. They're recording the music without understanding why humans create it. Dr. Chen stepped in to support her junior analyst's findings. "We believe their civilization may have evolved to prioritize perfection over adaptability. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, but it's rigid, inflexible. They process information in straight lines, while human technology embraces uncertainty, especially in our quantum systems." As if to underscore their point, the aliens finally initiated direct contact. Their message appeared simultaneously on every network device on Earth, displayed in perfect, standardized text. "We are the Zenith. We have analyzed your civilization and find it worthy of elevation. Accept our guidance, and we will bring order to your chaos. You have 100 hours to respond." Marcus stared at the message on his screen, a strange mix of fear and excitement building in his chest. "They think they're offering us perfection," he said quietly. Dr. Chen nodded, her expression thoughtful. "But they don't understand that our chaos, our uncertainty, it's not a flaw to be corrected. It's the source of our strength." Around the world, humans began to realize that first contact wasn't just a meeting of different species. It was a collision between two fundamentally different approaches to existence. One built on perfect order, the other thriving on beautiful chaos. The question wasn't just whether humanity would accept the Zenith's offer, but whether two such different paths of evolution could find common ground. Dr. Isabella Martinez pressed her hand against the cool glass of her office window, watching the crystalline ships shimmer in the evening sky. As Earth's leading genopsychologist, she had spent her career theorizing about alien minds. Now, faced with actual alien contact, she found herself spotting patterns that others had missed. The Zenith's latest transmission filled her holographic display, Its perfect formatting almost painful in its precision. Their offer seemed generous. Access to advanced technology, membership in their galactic coalition, and a promise to optimize human civilization. Yet something in their language made her uncomfortable. "Look at this," she said to Professor Zhang, her research partner. Every message follows the exact same structure. Introduction, statement, supporting evidence, conclusion. No variation, no adaptation to human responses. It's like they're following a communication template they can't deviate from. The professor adjusted his glasses, studying the collected messages. Perhaps it's a translation issue. Isabella shook her head. No, it's deeper than that. They're not just translating. They're processing our responses through some kind of rigid filter. They literally cannot comprehend communication that doesn't fit their predetermined patterns. In the week since first contact, the Zenith had shared glimpses of their technology. Their demonstrations were flawless energy systems that defied entropy, computational networks that made Earth's quantum computers look primitive, and medical techniques that could theoretically grant near immortality. Yet each demonstration followed the same script. When Earth's scientists asked unexpected questions or suggested alternative applications, the Zenith's responses showed microscopic delays, as if they needed to recalibrate their entire communication protocol. Isabella's breakthrough came during a virtual conference with the Zenith's primary interface. She deliberately introduced logical paradoxes into her questions, watching how their responses faltered when faced with uncertainty. Their civilization appears to have eliminated randomness entirely, she explained to the Emergency Council. They've achieved technological perfection, but at a cost. They've lost the ability to handle unexpected variables. The council chamber erupted in discussion. On the massive screens surrounding them, the Zenith ships continued their perfect, predictable rotations against the stars. Their 100-hour deadline was approaching, and humanity needed to decide. "But why offer us membership at all?" asked the council president. "If they're so advanced, why do they need us?" Isabella stood, drawing everyone's attention. "Because they've recognized something in us that they've lost. Look at their scans of Earth. They'd focused extensively on our art, our music, our literature, especially our ability to create new things without perfect planning." She pulled up a visualization of the Zenith's scanning patterns. "They're not studying us to conquer us. They're studying us because we do something they can't understand. We thrive on uncertainty. We make intuitive leaps. We create art that isn't mathematically perfect, but still moves people to tears." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Zenith's offer wasn't just about lifting humanity to their level of technology. It was about something deeper. "Their perfection is their limitation," Isabella continued. "They've optimized themselves into a corner. Every problem they face must have a perfect solution. But the universe isn't perfect. It's chaotic, unpredictable, and constantly changing." The council president leaned forward. "And we represent something they've lost. The ability to adapt to chaos." Isabella nodded. "Exactly. Their offer isn't just about uplifting us. It's about understanding how we can succeed without perfect order. They're not offering to fix us. They're asking us to show them what they've forgotten." As if in response to her words, the Zenith ship's crystalline surfaces rippled with new patterns, less rigid, almost questioning. The perfect civilization had encountered something their algorithms couldn't fully process: human unpredictability. The question now wasn't whether humanity should accept their offer, but whether they could help the Zenith rediscover something they'd sacrificed in their pursuit of perfection. The beautiful chaos that made evolution possible. Professor Lisa Chen stood before a wall of holographic displays in the Quantum Research Center, watching streams of data flow between Earth's quantum networks and the Zenith ships. Her team had made a discovery that could change everything. But first, they had to prove it. "The fluctuations are subtle," she explained to the assembled group of scientists and military officials. "But every time our quantum networks process information using uncertainty principles, the Zenith systems show microscopic delays in response. Dr. Marcus Wong, who had first discovered the pattern in the Zenith's data collection, stepped forward. It's like trying to play jazz with an orchestra that only knows classical music. Their systems can't improvise. They have to process every variation through their entire decision tree. The revelation had come accidentally. Earth's quantum internet, built on principles of uncertainty and probability, created natural noise that the Zenith's perfect systems struggled to filter. Their advanced technology, designed for absolute precision, faced an unexpected challenge: human chaos. "Watch this," Lisa said, initiating a new sequence. On the main screen, a simple quantum encryption program began running. The code wasn't particularly complex by Earth standards. It used random quantum states to generate encryption keys, but the Zenith's response time lagged by microseconds. "Their technology is far more advanced than ours," she continued, "but it's built on fundamentally different principles. They eliminated uncertainty from their systems entirely. They don't just prefer order, they require it." The implications were staggering. The Zenith's offer to optimize human civilization suddenly carried new weight. With their optimization removed the very thing that made human technology unique: its ability to work with chaos rather than against it. Admiral Santos, representing Earth's combined defense forces, leaned forward. "Can we use this? Create some kind of defense?" Lisa shook her head. "We're not looking for a weapon. We're looking for a way to communicate, to show them something they've never seen before. A civilization that grows stronger through uncertainty." The team worked through the night, running simulations and tests. They discovered that Earth's quantum networks, when processing multiple parallel operations with random variables, created patterns that the Zenith systems took progressively longer to analyze. "It's beautiful, really," Dr. Sarah Martinez commented, watching the data streams. "Our inefficient systems are actually more flexible than their perfect ones. We bend. They can only stand rigid." As dawn approached, Lisa gathered her findings for presentation to the World Council. The Zenith's deadline was now less than 40 hours away, but she believed they had found something more valuable than a defense strategy. "We don't need to fight them," she explained to her team. "We need to show them what they've lost. Their perfection has become their prison. They can't evolve because they can't handle uncertainty, and without uncertainty, there can be no true growth." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young graduate student, working with quantum art programs, had created a visualization of Earth's data networks. Unlike the Zenith's rigid patterns, human information flow looked like a living thing, adapting, changing, growing in response to new input. "Send it to them," Lisa decided, not as a response to their offer, but as an invitation to understand us better. The visualization stringed up to the Zenith ships, a dancing pattern of quantum states, probability clouds, and beautiful imperfection. For several long moments, nothing happened. Then the crystalline surfaces of the alien vessels began to shift in new ways, trying to match the unpredictable patterns they were receiving. "They're learning," Marcus whispered, watching the displays. "Maybe for the first time in their history, they're facing something they can't simply process and categorize." Lisa smiled, watching the dance between human chaos and alien order play out across her screens. Perhaps this was why the universe had brought their civilizations together, not for conflict, but for growth. In their pursuit of perfection, the Zenith had created a technological paradise, but humans could show them something even more valuable: the power of beautiful chaos. Grandmaster Elena Petrova sat in the silent auditorium of the Global Chess Center, her eyes fixed on the holographic board floating before her. Across from her, a quantum computer processed billions of possibilities per second. Above them both, the crystalline ships of the Zenith cast prismatic patterns through the windows. "Knight to e4, she said quietly, making a move that the computer had calculated as having only a 12% chance of success. In the observation room, Professor Lisa Chen and her team watched intently as the Zenith's scanning patterns shifted, trying to process this seemingly illogical choice. The global chess tournament had been Dr. Martinez's idea, a way to demonstrate human intuition against pure computational power. What better way to show the value of uncertainty than through a game where the greatest players often won by making moves that defied perfect statistical analysis? "Look at their response patterns," Marcus Wong whispered, pointing to his display. The Zenith ships were dedicating an increasing amount of processing power to analyze the games. Their perfect systems struggled to understand why humans would deliberately choose suboptimal moves that somehow led to victory. Alina wasn't the only one playing. In venues across the globe, grandmasters faced off against quantum computers while the Zenith observed. Each game became a demonstration of human unpredictability, of choices that couldn't be reduced to pure mathematics. "Checkmate in 3 moves," Alina announced, her voice calm but her hands trembling slightly. The quantum computer confirmed her victory. A win achieved through moves that had seemed inefficient, even wrong, until the final sequence revealed their true purpose. The Zenith's response came immediately, displayed on screens throughout the building. "Your strategic algorithms are flawed." Optimal play was not achieved in 82.7% of moves. Lisa stepped forward, sending back a carefully worded reply. They weren't meant to be optimal. They were meant to be human. The tournament continued through the day, each game demonstrating a different aspect of human thinking. Some players won through careful strategy, others through bold sacrifices that seemed to defy logic. A few lost spectacularly. But even these losses showed something valuable about human willingness to take risks. In Mumbai, a 12-year-old prodigy defeated a quantum computer through a series of moves she later described as just feeling right. In Sao Paulo, a veteran grandmaster deliberately played into a losing position, only to turn it into an unexpected victory. The Zenith's messages became increasingly frequent, their perfect grammar showing signs of what could almost be called confusion. Your species deliberately introduces inefficiency into decision-making processes. This requires explanation. Dr. Martinez coordinated the responses from her office in the xenopsychology department. "We don't see it as inefficiency. We see it as creativity. Sometimes the perfect move isn't the right move." As the deadline for their offer approached, the Zenith ships began moving in new patterns. Their crystalline surfaces rippled with colors that had never been seen before, as if their very structure was trying to process concepts that challenged their fundamental understanding of intelligence. "They're learning," Lisa observed, watching the data streams. "Not just analyzing, but actually learning. Look at how their response patterns are becoming less rigid." In the final game of the day, Alina faced her greatest challenge. The quantum computer had adapted to her style, predicting her seemingly unpredictable moves. Instead of fighting against this adaptation, she smiled and began playing with perfect, logical precision, until the last 3 moves, where she broke pattern completely. Sometimes, she explained to the observers as she claimed victory, the most unexpected move is to be predictable, until the moment you're not. The Zenith's final message of the day appeared on all screens. "We request an extension of the decision deadline. More observation is required. Your species has introduced variables we cannot yet process." Lisa looked at her team, triumph in her eyes. They hadn't just bought more time. They had shown the Zenith something their perfect civilization had forgotten. The power of human intuition, where the right choice could defy even perfect calculation. The Global Innovation Center buzzed with energy as Dr. Maya Patel adjusted the neural interface of her emotion-responsive art installation. Around her, hundreds of humanity's brightest minds were preparing their demonstrations for Project Renaissance, each pushing the boundaries of what was possible when human creativity met advanced technology. "Neural pathway synchronization complete," her assistant announced. The massive digital canvas sprang to life, its colors and patterns shifting in response to the collective emotional state of everyone in the room. The Zenith observers, their presence felt through their constant data collection, would see something unprecedented, art that lived and breathed with human consciousness. Across the facility, different sections showcase humanity's unique approach to innovation. In the quantum computing wing, Dr. Wang's team demonstrated programming that deliberately incorporated random variables, creating solutions that evolved rather than following predetermined paths. Traditional computing seeks perfect solutions, he explained to the data stream that connected directly to the Zenith ships. We embrace imperfection as a path to discovery. Each random variable is a chance to find something unexpected. The engineering section hosted Professor Chen's Adaptive Materials Laboratory. Her team had developed substances that became stronger when exposed to chaos, metals that reinforced themselves along stress points, polymers that evolved new molecular structures under pressure. Life itself evolved through imperfect copies, she broadcast to their observers. We've learned to harness that principle in our technology. Perfection isn't our goal. Adaptation is. In the central auditorium, musicians performed with quantum-enhanced instruments that responded to probability waves, creating harmonies that existed between traditional notes. The mathematics behind it challenged even the Zenith's advanced systems, as the music lived in the spaces between certainty. The crystalline ships above had begun to display unprecedented behaviors. Their perfect geometric patterns now showed subtle variations, tiny imperfections that suggested they were attempting to process concepts that challenged their fundamental programming. Maya's emotion-responsive art wall suddenly blazed with new patterns as the Zenith initiated direct communication. Their message appeared across all screens. Your demonstrations violate fundamental efficiency principles, yet they achieve results our systems cannot predict. Explain. Dr. Martinez, coordinating from the Xenopsychology department, crafted the response. Innovation isn't about achieving perfection. It's about exploring possibilities. Each imperfection is a doorway to something new. The next demonstration came from the Biological Sciences Division. They had created a virtual ecosystem where digital life forms evolve through controlled mutation. The Zenith observed as generations of code adapted to challenges in ways that no perfect system could have designed. Look at their scanning patterns, Maya called out, pointing to her monitors. The Zenith ships were processing the data in new ways, their rigid analysis showing signs of flexibility they hadn't displayed before. Professor Sarah Chen stepped up to the main communication console. We're not trying to show you our technology, she transmitted. We're showing you our process. Each experiment, each piece of art, each musical note, they're all examples of how humanity turns uncertainty into progress. The Zenith's response came faster than ever before, their perfect formatting showing subtle variations. Your species deliberately cultivates randomness to achieve advancement. This contradicts all known optimization principles. That's exactly the point, Maya whispered, watching her emotion ball reflect the intense focus of every human in the facility. They weren't just showcasing their achievements, they were demonstrating a fundamental truth about human innovation. As Project Renaissance entered its final phase, the Zenith ships began to move in new patterns, their crystalline surfaces displaying colors that shifted and swirled in almost organic ways. They were learning, adapting, perhaps for the first time in their long history. The message that appeared next surprised everyone. We request permission to participate in your experimental processes. Our civilization requires updating. Maya smiled as the emotion ball pulsed with the collective joy and triumph of the human observers. They had shown the Zenith something more valuable than perfect technology. They had shown them how to embrace the beauty of imperfection. The surfaces of the Zenith ships rippled with unprecedented patterns as they processed the flood of human creativity. In the Global Innovation Center's main control room, Dr. Lisa Chen watched in amazement as the aliens' perfect crystalline structures began displaying colors that had never been seen before, hues that seemed to exist between known wavelengths of light. Their systems are adapting, Marcus Wong announced, his fingers flying across his quantum interface. Look at these readings. They're not just observing anymore. They're experimenting with randomness themselves. The Zenith's latest transmission appeared on the main screen, its typically perfect formatting now showing subtle variations. We have identified an error in our fundamental protocols. Our pursuit of perfection has become a limitation. Request immediate exchange of cultural data." Dr. Isabella Martinez leaned forward in her chair, her eyes bright with excitement. "They're not just learning about us anymore. They're learning from us. Their whole civilization is beginning to question its basic assumptions. Around the world, the effects of this shift became visible. The Zenith ship's movements, once rigidly geometric, now followed flowing patterns that seemed almost organic. Their communications, previously locked in perfect mathematical sequences, began showing signs of experimental variation. "Look at this," Professor Maya Patel called from her station. Her emotion-responsive art wall was receiving direct input from the Zenith ships, translating their data streams into visual patterns. The display showed something extraordinary. The aliens were attempting to create art. Their first efforts were strikingly geometric, perfect mandala-like patterns that slowly began incorporating random elements. Each iteration showed more complexity, more willingness to explore uncertainty. "They're like children discovering finger painting," Maya whispered, watching the patterns evolve. "After millions of years of perfect order, they're learning to play." The breakthrough came during a joint quantum computing session. The Zenith had agreed to link their systems with Earth's quantum networks for a series of controlled experiments. As humans introduced random variables into the process, the alien systems began showing remarkable adaptability. "Their technology is literally rewriting itself," Marcus explained to the assembled team. "Their perfect systems are learning to embrace uncertainty, and instead of breaking down, they're becoming more powerful." The Zenith's next message carried a tone that could almost be described as excitement. "Your species has shown us a path we could not see. Perfection without adaptation is stagnation. We request permission to establish permanent cultural exchange." In the following hours, the Zenith shared glimpses of their history. A civilization that had achieved technological perfection but had stopped evolving, trapped by their own inability to embrace change. Human creativity, with its beautiful chaos and deliberate imperfection, had shown them a way forward. Lisa stood before the World Council, presenting the latest data. "They're not just visitors anymore," she explained. "They're students of humanity, learning something their perfect civilization had forgotten: the power of innovation through imperfection." The Zenith ships now danced in Earth's orbit, their movements a flowing ballet that combined their precise technology with new experimental patterns. Their surfaces shimmered with colors that human eyes had never seen before, each ripple representing a step away from rigid perfection and toward something new. "We are changing," the Zenith announced in their latest transmission. "Your chaos creates patterns we never imagined. Your imperfection shows us paths we could not calculate. We offer a new proposal, not to perfect your civilization, but to learn from it." As the message appeared on screens worldwide, humans watched their visitors with a mixture of pride and wonder. They had done more than prove humanity's worth to an advanced civilization. They had shown that even perfection itself could be improved by embracing a little chaos. The crystalline ships continued their new dance above Earth, each movement a testament to a fundamental truth. True growth comes not from achieving perfection, but from the courage to move beyond it. The red Martian desert stretched out before Dr. Lisa Chen as she stood at the observation deck of the newly completed Galactic Innovation Center. Above her, the crystalline ships of the Zenith no longer maintained their perfect geometric formations. Instead, they flowed in ever-changing patterns, each movement an experiment in combining precision with creativity. "The first students will arrive tomorrow," Marcus Wong said, joining her at the window. 6 months had passed since the Zenith's transformation began, and the changes in their civilization had exceeded everyone's expectations. Hard to believe we've come so far from those first tense days. The center itself was a testament to the partnership that had evolved between the two civilizations. Its architecture combined Zenith crystal technology with human design principles, creating spaces that could shift and adapt to the needs of its occupants. Every surface held the potential for change. Every room could transform in response to the activities within. "Look at this," Dr. Isabella Martinez called from her research station. The main display showed the latest data from the Zenith home systems. Their entire civilization was undergoing a renaissance, as centuries of rigid perfection gave way to a new philosophy that embraced uncertainty as a path to growth. The first breakthrough had come in their quantum computing networks. By incorporating human-inspired random variables, the Zenith had discovered entirely new realms of mathematical possibility. Their perfect systems, once limited by their inability to handle uncertainty, now evolved and adapted in ways that surprised even their creators. "They're composing music now," Professor Maya Patil announced, her emotion-responsive walls dancing with alien harmonies. The sounds defied Earth's traditional scales, yet carried a beauty that brought tears to human eyes. Mathematics and emotion intertwined in ways neither civilization had imagined possible. The main communication screen lit up with a message from the Zenith High Council, their once rigid formatting now showing artistic flourishes. "We have begun implementing uncertainty protocols in all major systems. Each imperfection creates new possibilities. We thank humanity for showing us the path beyond perfection." Lisa smiled, remembering how far they'd come from those first tense encounters. "They're not just learning to handle chaos," she observed. "They're learning to create it purposefully, to use it as a tool for discovery." The center's quantum networks hummed with activity as joint research teams prepared for the next phase of cultural exchange. Human artists worked with Zenith engineers, creating installations that combined advanced technology with raw emotion. Scientists from both civilizations collaborated on projects that would have been impossible for either to achieve alone. "The first human delegation leaves for the Zenith homeworld next month," Marcus reminded her. "They've redesigned entire cities to accommodate our need for unpredictability. Who would have thought our imperfections would become our greatest diplomatic asset?" Outside, the Martian sunset painted the sky in shades of red and gold, while the Zenith ships above cast shifting patterns of light across the desert surface. Their crystalline structures now incorporated deliberate asymmetries, each one unique, a visible symbol of how far they'd come from their pursuit of perfect uniformity. "We were both incomplete," Isabella reflected, watching the display of a joint art project where human children and Zenith learning systems created together. They had achieved perfect order, but lost the ability to grow. "We had chaos but needed help channeling it effectively." The final message of the day appeared on all screens, a joint statement from Earth's governments and the Zenith Council. "Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in both our civilizations. Together, we will explore the balance between order and chaos, perfection and growth, certainty and possibility." As night fell over Mars, the lights of the Innovation Center painted the desert in impossible colors, some from Earth's visible spectrum, others from the Zenith's expanded perception. Each hue represented a different way of seeing the universe, a reminder that true wisdom comes not from choosing between order and chaos, but from learning to dance between them. The story that began with the arrival of perfect beings ended with something far more valuable, a partnership that proved even perfection itself could evolve when touched by the beautiful chaos of human creativity.